this isn't a food podcast. This is, of course, the Bruins Beat here on CLNS Media. I'm your host, Jimmy Murphy. Joe Gill along with me. And, of course, the hot topic amongst Bruins fans and within the media in the Boston area when it comes to the Boston Bruins right now is David Pastrnak. So hence the intro song there. But we're not going to talk about recipes right now. We're going to talk about all things David Pastrnak, all things Boston Bruins, and honored to bring on right now a Hall of Fame hockey writer. You know him from the Boston Globe. He's a friend and colleague of mine. Join us right now is Kevin Paul Dupont. Dupes, how are you?
Doing great, Jimmy. Joe, how are you guys doing?
Doing well, Kevin. Doing well. Glad to have you on.
Good. My pleasure.
So, Dupes, let's get right into it here. The Bruins, once again, and I mean, this has been going on for longer than a decade, really, in the salary cap era, are once again in a contract stalemate with a young rising star. This time is 20-year-old David Pastrnak. Where did the Bruins go wrong with the sauce on pasta?
Well, I think they made two big mistakes here with the Backes and Bolesky deals in terms of overspending for guys and not getting – and I'm not justifying it. I'm just trying to flesh out the picture a little bit here. So I think Don Sweeney goes into this summer, or went into this summer, because we're well into it now, aren't we? But he didn't do anything this July 1st of any note. They didn't go out and spend millions, and frankly, based on how he spent with Bolesky and Backes, it's probably a good thing he didn't. So yeah, they're ratcheting down. It got out of hand in my estimation, with the way Chiarelli gave out deals. And Don Sweeney is considerably more conservative. I do believe Pasternak's going to get his money. I think he'll get good money. After that Draisaitl deal today, all of a sudden it's virtually guaranteed he'll get his money. The question is how many years and how much. So I was hoping maybe they'd come to a 2-year bridge deal. After seeing this deal today, I don't think that's in the realm of possibility. I think you're going to see Pastrnak will get 6 or 7 years, and he'll get, I think, minimum $6 million. I don't think they'll do it easily. I think they'll grind away at this. It's a little different here in Pasternak's case because he is not ARB eligible. They can squeeze him if they want to. I don't think they do want to. But, of course, they can squeeze him right to December 1st and make him decide, does he want to kiss away the entire year per the CBA, or does he want to sign for whatever they've got on the table as of December 1st? But I truly believe, based on stuff you've said here, they have spent to the cap for a very long time here. Their problem is they haven't spent well to the cap. They've given out some bad deals.
Oh, yes.
And in part, those bad deals now are impacting David Pastrnak. He doesn't like that, I'm sure. I wouldn't. But, there's $10 million tied up in Bolesky and Backes. I've written off Bolesky entirely. I didn't see much the first year when people were satisfied with him. And Backes, you know what? It was a gentleman's C at best. I think he can bring more. Obviously he can. That's going to be the challenge here for Cassidy and whatever kind of energy these kids bring. Yeah, I think you're going to see a handful of kids come in here at forward, and maybe that re-energizes Backes.
Jimmy, can I ask a quick question to Kevin? So, Kevin, as you know by the history of the team and since the last 15, 20 years or so, talented guys like Joe Thornton, Sagan, Kessel. I know a little kind of different, but they're all very talented. All probably going to get paid at one point or the other, but they just didn't want to wait for it to actually come blossom, or they just gave up on them too early. I believe Kessel and Sagan were both gone after 3 years. Is this like a pattern, or is this what's your take on this?
Well, actually, most of those guys did get their money. Thornton had just signed for 3 years, $20 million, and had a big, fresh new deal. Kessel was the only one who couldn't come to terms. The one you left off your list, Dougie Hamilton, they gave him actually a little better, offered him a little better than he settled for in Calgary. So again, it isn't necessarily the money that's been the sticking point. It's been, well, I guess to some degrees they're all unique cases. Kessel basically forced the trade. I don't think Kessel wanted to be here either, you know, in terms of style and playing for Julian. So he forced his deal. Seguin certainly didn't, but they didn't like his act for various reasons. They didn't like his lifestyle. Joe was a frustrating a trade out of frustration by Mike O'Connell, and certainly didn't get market value. So they're all kind of different. The disappointing thing from a fan standpoint is to see prime young talent. Ages, Joe was a little older. Joe had played 6 or 7 years, so Joe was 24, 25. But the group we've just talked about, they're all, you know, young to mid-20s max. Lots of years in front of them. Kessel's gone on here and won a couple of cups. Seguin's got a unique talent in terms of speed, breakaway skill. So those are hard ones for fans to accept, particularly when the returns are soft to meaningless.
I mean, if they got good returns on any of those guys, I mean, I think people probably, you know, forget what happened, right? But they got nothing.
Yeah, I forget the 3 guys. JFK is one, Senishin is another, and I think Lausanne are the 3 guys they got for Dougie Hamilton. So all of them are in the mix, and which is also to say none of them could ever be seen.
True.
So, but there is a chance that one comes in for them. On the same hand, to give them their druthers here, that was a kid who openly stated he didn't want to play here anymore. And frankly, that, in my mind, that does connect to what's currently going on with Pastrnak. Pastrnak is not saying that. Pastrnak is saying what everybody says. They want their money. But I do believe, you know, they could have played the hardball angle with Hamilton and said, well, that's too bad, but we have your rights. You're not ARB eligible. We can take you right up to December 1st, and then you can decide if you want to play or not. And frankly, we know what would have happened. He would have signed. And then had they signed him at a decent dollar, then their leverage to trade him would have been far better, in my estimation. They could have ginned up the market, gone out with the guy who many people believe is an elite number 1 defenseman. Personally, I don't agree with that.
I don't agree either.
He's putting up some numbers right now. Had he been under control with a 5 or 6 year deal, I think he could have made a better deal for Dougie Hamilton.
Dupes, I mean, as we stated here, there's a lot of factors that have gone on, right, with Pastrnak and with other young rising stars in the course of their history. But one of the common threads I always see has really been emotions and knee-jerk reactions, whether that's from the owner, whether that's from the GM, whether that's from the fan base, whether that's from the media. It seems like emotions are allowed to play too much of a role in the decision-making when it comes to situations like this. And furthermore, I think it affects the return they get and the way they evaluate the potential trades they can make, and not allowing themselves to really gauge a market there and see what's out there. It's just emotions, boom, they make the deal, and here we go. Your thoughts on that?
It's certainly it's part of that porridge. And again, I think you have to look at them each case uniquely. Why were they there with Joe? I think there's a lot of reasons they were there with Joe. Paid him a lot of money. Yeah, paid him a lot of money. You know, went 0-0-0 in the 7 games against Montreal. It wasn't it was a franchise that was kind of floating around there. So that one, again, in retrospect, in terms of what they got back, they didn't get anywhere near fair value. My belief, Kessel wanted out, forced the trade. I think that's more on him than them. I think it's more on Hamilton than them. So it's Seguin was an immature kid. I think they overreacted to that. and that said, we never know the entire story. But, you know, my belief in that is that they did overreact. You know, you almost get into a parenting situation. What happens here, though, and I've seen this before with other players too, is comes in, he is talented. You hand him the whack of money. All of a sudden, I think as the owner / manager / coach, you're saying, and now I have to babysit him too. You know? I think that ends up being an irritant in these things. And there's no question he was immature. No question about that. If you remember, in short order, he made some, if I remember correctly, on his Twitter account soon after he got into Dallas, made some homophobic remark where he had to shut down Twitter for a while. No, so again, these kids are 18, 19, sometimes not even 20, and they make some stupid decisions. He clearly had made some lifestyle mistakes here, and that set it in motion. Again, though, if you're going to trade that talent, you do better than Louis Eriksson.
I totally agree with everything you're saying, Dupes, and what you said before, Joe, and all that. And, you know, I think you're right. Each case is unique. But I'm going to go back to this knee-jerk reaction thing. And, Dupes, you probably know the story. Martin Lapointe, heading into 2001-02 season, free agent, and the Bruins throw the bank at him and completely overpay for the player on the ice. Of course, he turned out to be a great leader, served as a mentor to Patrice Bergeron, as well as a billet parent. But, I mean, let's be real here. That was an overpayment, and it was a result of emotions from Jeremy Jacobs, as the story goes, and Mike Ilitch, God bless him, the late Red Wings owner, Mr. I, getting into a huge blowout in a governor's meeting, and they really went at it, and Jacobs ordered Mike O'Connell to do whatever necessary to sign Lapointe and stick it to Ilitch in the Red Wings. So, I mean, can we argue this? I mean, Dupes, it does play a role, right? And I'm sure you've heard that story.
Yeah, no, I've been told the same story, and I have no reason to believe it isn't true. And you know, that's a rarity because, frankly, Jeremy Jacobs doesn't know if the puck is stuffed or puffed. So, and you know, and no matter what he says, he's a businessman. That's what he does, and he's done very well selling, 10-cent Cokes for $3.50. I mean, we should all have that business model. But that said, he's built it. It's a very successful company. But he doesn't know hockey. He's never known hockey, and he was really blessed to have Harry Sinden running the show. And frankly, part of that equation is everyone beating their chest here for decades now, saying, "Oh, that cheap screw Jeremy Jacobs." And it really, the guidance from Buffalo and Jeremy Jacobs in terms of spending the money was minimal. A lot of that was just Harry Sinden's nature. Never met a fight he didn't like. Certainly had a belief in how not to pay players, and that set the tone. That wasn't Jacobs. That was Harry. And that said, Harry made Jacobs a lot of money because you couldn't do that in every town. But the hockey loyalty in Boston among the fandom, as you guys well know, is long and rich, and it didn't change. It didn't change from a direction in terms of financial direction here until finally the season ticket base had withered till about, 5, 6, 7,000. And that really was the frustration that led to the Joe trade and led to finally the move away from Harry Sinden and Mike O'Connell and bringing in Peter Chiarelli. Because when the season ticket base finally craved and it wasn't the money-making machine, something had to change. And indeed, Jacobs did throw Sinden under the bus. O'Connell got fired, and they started the new era here with Chiarelli and Chara and Mark Savard. And then a year later when they got rid of Louis, with Julian.
Guys, we touched on the Draisaitl contract a couple times here, and Dupes, I forgot to ask you earlier. I mean, did you get another email from Don Sweeney after the Draisaitl contract.
No, I haven't. No, I was talking to Fluto today, though, and Fluto certainly, this is my partner, of course, Fluto Shinzawa on the beat. Fluto and I both have the belief here that now that's come in at 8 years, 8.5, that Pastrnak they'll have to come up with that money. Now, whether that's 7 years at 7 or 6 at 6.8 or whatever it is, but that's the market. They are very comparable to players, and the other kid's a center and Pasta's a winger, but they're going to have to pay it. I suppose they've known that all along. I think they've been willing to go to $6 million over long term, but now this is pushing it another, at least 10%, but maybe up to 30% or more.
Dupes, look, I know you're tight on time. Awesome stuff today as always, and we love your work, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us here. Joe Gill and myself on the Bruins beat on CLNS Media. We'll see you around the rinks, all right, my friend? Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Joe. And enjoy the rest of your summer, and we'll see you at camp.
And, Joe, what a great interview there with Dupes. I mean, Hall of Fame hockey writer, like we said, and just obviously knows his stuff. And I agree with a lot of things he said there. I'm going to keep bringing it up, and I know I'm repeating myself throughout this whole show, is I think there's a major sort of emotional knee-jerk reaction issue with this Bruins organization for a long time. I just think that whether it's Harry Sinden, Mike O'Connell, Peter Chiarelli, Don Sweeney, Cam Neely, Jeremy Jacobs, Charlie Jacobs, whoever, making the decisions, they let it get too personal, or they let it rub them the wrong way a little too much and don't necessarily rationalize, and they get forced into deals. And I think that was a common thread throughout the conversation with Dupes. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just, they hit the panic button. They don't check the market. But no, to your point, I mean, who knows? It could be even calmer too, because they had a lot of good trades that they fleeced people with, the Espositos, the Neelys and all that stuff. So maybe karma's coming back to bite them. But yeah, they just have some really bad trades, and even talking about Bork's trade, that was another horrible trade too. You know what I mean? Just didn't get any return at all. So I mean, they've definitely been on the wrong side of a lot of trades lately. So
yeah, I mean, the Bork thing, to me, that's sort of an exception for this pattern we're discussing here, or this common thread, so to speak, because
he's not a young player, right? But
well, not even that. I actually applaud Harry Sinden, and let's not forget, Brian Rolston actually did pretty well here in Boston. He turned out to be a pretty, good, serviceable player and a big leader in that core from, basically the 01-02 to right before they let him walk in the 2005 lockout. But I look at that. We got him back. Don't you think they did that? That was more of a favor to Ray Bork. That was like, look, man, we admit it. We're cheap. We're not going to do what you need us to do to get you the cup. And you know what? God bless you. Go get it. And you want to come back to City Hall? We will welcome you with open arms.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, and I don't think the Bruins necessarily took insult to that. And I really hate when some Bruins fans get all anal at Bork about that. It's like, really? Are you kidding me?
Now. I mean, come on.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, whatever.
It's not like he went to the Montreal Canadiens. He went to the Colorado Avalanche, who at that point had really nothing to do with the Boston Bruins. This is really he was the first, so to speak, connection between the Avalanche and the Bruins. I mean, yes, they used to be the Nordiques, but still, I never hated the Nordiques like I hate the Canadiens. I mean, it's a whole different element. So, I don't know. I ramble, I digress. But, I think, Joe, it's going to be interesting. As Dupes said during that interview, his colleague Fluto Shinzawa is saying they're going to have to match Draisaitl, but, maybe they can equal it out with less years, or maybe they equal it out with more years and less money. I don't think that's going to be the case. But the one thing I worry about, Joe, is the agent, and we discussed the Dougie Hamilton situation here, where Dougie forced Don Sweeney's hand and Cam Neely's hand, and, said I want out and that's it, whatever. They got the best they could. Still think they could have done better, but
he's overrated. I'm sorry.
But my point is, I'm worried about the fact they have the same agent.
Yeah.
I think that's playing a role right now, as well as what we've discussed on this podcast before. I really, really think the bonuses are playing a role because, as I pointed out, and I pointed out earlier, these are bonuses that if David Pastrnak achieves these bonuses before what we all expect, and it's like a 90% guarantee is going to be another lockout or work stoppage.
Wonderful.
They have to honor those bonuses. And that is going to be tough. I can't see Jeremy Jacobs swallowing that. And I think that's what the holdup is. I think there is a little bad blood between J.P. Barry and Bruins management, but I think the biggest holdup is the damn bonuses. And it's going to be interesting to see how they work that element of the contract out. I think they work this contract out. I think it might go, though, till the end of training camp. I think he holds out.
Yeah.
But it's going to be really interesting, don't you think?
And I think JJ's a spitter more than anyway, I had to go up that play of words you had. I just think the Bruins have to, give the screws to the players as usual, give the screw to the fans. Nothing's easy. Like I said, this team is like trending towards the needle's going in the right direction in the first time in 3 to 4 years, and now we got to deal with this garbage. The elite talent that he is, the natural goal scorer. He's got more natural talent than Marchand. Marchand's a mucker. He's a snipe too, but he's definitely got, he's done more with less, right? Pasternak's like the whole deal. So, let's not get this kid who's, really excelled in his 3 years. Like I said last year, he really dedicated himself, working out. He didn't go back to the Czech Republic. He stayed here. He got his stuff together. He's better on the puck than he was in the past. I hear people still blasting him because of his turnovers. Granted, the kid is still 20 years old.
Yeah.
And, he's more of an offensive guy. But, what a way to repay the guy for really putting in the effort and stuff like that. I know it's his job. I get it. But, let's have this thing drag out until September, right before the opener in October.
It's going to happen. I think it's going to happen.
Typical Bruins. Typical Montreal, typical Bruins.
I know. It was interesting, though. Dupes wasn't necessarily saying it's typical Bruins. He was saying more it's... And this is, I do agree with him. I think there's a combination of typical Bruins going on and welcome to the Cap world. And, people can blame Peter Chiarelli for signing Draisaitl to that deal, and that's why Pastrnak isn't signed all they want. But, no, Peter Chiarelli's got to worry about his own team. He's not worried about the Bruins. He didn't sign Draisaitl to that deal to screw the Bruins. I know. I'm telling you. Dude, really, do you and I do our job based on the fact that we want to screw somebody over? No. We do our job. We do this podcast because we got to do it, and that's it. And we love it, and that's it. He could care less about the Boston Bruins. And I think people need to start caring less about him and blaming everything on him. And I know I go into this over and over, but get over it, people. Why don't we, talk some facts here? And the facts are, this is typical Bruins, like you said, Joe, and this is also the reality of the Cap world and an impending lockout. But the thing is, it really goes back to typical Bruins because who's behind the lockout? Who's behind the salary cap?
I really think that you, Peter Chiarelli, and Claude all have gone out with your feety pajamas and had Sundays together because I'm pretty sure because you defend those guys till like they said during the NHL lockout.
But do you really think the fact that David Pastrnak's not signed is because Peter Chiarelli has a vendetta against them? Do you really believe that?
No, I heard recently. They made a good point that Chiarelli's basically screwing over every GM with what he's doing. So he's driving the market. He's didn't drive the market. He's handed out long-term deals.
Did he drive the market, or did Draisaitl drive the market?
Well, did Pastrnak have more goals than he did? Pastrnak was a little bit better than him. He's not a center, but. Like I said, I think Chiarelli's back to his old ways. He's going to be giving out no trade clauses like candy shortly, and that team. Really,
I don't know. He did not give a no trade clause out, but look. Bottom line is, we can be as frustrated as we want, but let's look at the facts. He has nothing to do with the David Pastrnak negotiations. Did him and Draisaitl set a bar? Yes, they did. That's the way the market goes. So let me ask you something else. If Peter Chiarelli wasn't the GM of the Edmonton Oilers, and whoever the GM was signed him to the same deal, would you be blaming that GM?
Now, I try to find a way to do a dotted line to Peter Chiarelli and blame him.
Exactly. Peter Chiarelli was sitting in a strip club, and somehow he's to blame. He's wallowing in his sorrows. He's not an NHL GM anymore, but he's sitting in a strip club, and he is the main reason that David Pastrnak is like. That's what I'm trying to say. This is it's really a pointless argument.
I almost cut my finger off last month, and I blame Peter Chiarelli. So exactly. I mean, everything I blame him for.
There you go. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for proving my point, my friend.
Chiarelli, come on, dude. You put the team in cap hell. You sold your soul to win them a cup, and we all said that was worth it.
See, that's where I don't get why Bruins are so pissed. I'm fine with selling my soul to win a cup. When you grow up around Boston and you're a hockey guy and you don't win a cup for your whole life, basically, and then they win it, I don't care what the hell they had to do. They won it. And you know what? If not for, Chris Kelly missing an open net and
oh God,
and the Blackhawks being the Blackhawks, well then, they win 2 cups. And I wonder what it would be an interesting thing. Like I saw Yahoo was doing these what if columns recently. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, you survived one. That was a great one.
Yeah, so it's like, what if the Bruins beat the Blackhawks? Do the people around Boston really trash Julian and Chiarelli as much as they do? Like if that happened, I don't think they do. I really don't.
I think they put up statues of those 2 guys next to Bobby Orr, and I'm sure they will all offend somebody, and they'll have to take them down.
Right, so. Exactly. Anyhow, listen, you know what? This was a great podcast. We're getting better as we go, Joe. I love doing this, my friend, and it was awesome to have Dupes on.
Yeah, he's awesome. Like I told you, I'm a major fanboy.
Yeah, hey, look, his columns got me. They got me through many of visits on the throne, if you know what I mean, back when I was a kid. So there you go.
Oh yeah, I read them all. Yeah, read them all the time. And
a little more information than everyone needed to know, but there we go. That's what we do on the Bruins beat. Hey, Joe, we're going to send it out here with a biggie. The Notorious B.I.G. and Mo Money, Mo Problems, because that's what the Bruins have. So he's Joe Gill. I'm Jimmy Murphy. This is the Bruins Beat on CLNS Media. We'll talk to you next week.
B.I.G.P.O.P.P.A. No info for the DEA. Federal agents mad because I'm flagrant. Tap myself and the phone in the basement. My team supreme, stay clean. Triple beam, lyrical dream. I be that. Catch a seat at all events bent. In holsters, girls on shoulders, playboy. I told ya, me and Mike to me, bruise too much, I lose too much. Step on stage, the girls boo too much. I guess it's cause you run with lame dudes too much. Me lose my touch, never that. If I did, ain't no problem to get the where the true players at. Throw your rollies in the sky, waving side to side, and keep your hands high while I give your girl an eye. Play it please, lyrically. C, B-I-G-B flossing, jig on the cover of Fortune, 500. Here's my phone number, your man, I got the know, I got the dough, got the flow down, pizzazz, platinum plus, like Zizak, dangerous on Trizak, leave you with Trizak.